Right guys, welcome to my video today. We're going to be looking at how to use blocks. So I've got them under my bum right now. How to use blocks for a beginner in seated poses. And really this is to help us get into the poses with more comfort, with better alignment, and so that we can target the right areas of the body without dumping into the lower back, which tends to take a lot of the load when people are new to yoga. So what you need for this practice is a yoga mat and 2 blocks. And when you're ready, I'm going to meet you on the floor. Right guys, welcome to your beginner seated block sequence. So today we're going to go through 5 poses and you're going to need 2 blocks. Some of you might need 3 blocks, but 2 is a really good starting point. The sort of standard yoga block size is really good. You might have like a flatter block, but these yoga bricks are good for when it comes to specific poses where we're going to be holding our weight on them and they're sturdy enough to not fold under our arms. So the first pose that we're going to come to is a seated pose. So you might need 1, you might need 2 blocks. It just kind of depends on how you feel comfortable. So just bringing the block onto your mat, setting your bum onto that block and then crossing your legs. So if you feel really tight in the hips and if you feel like you're really rounding in your back, grab your other block, plop it under your bum. So I like to suggest to shuffle the ankles slightly forwards and maybe sort of shuffle yourself towards the edge of the block. So you kind of feel like your butt cheeks are being lifted up, and this is going to help to support you. And then just bring your hands onto the block, or onto the knees rather. Let the fingers just naturally curl and bring the eyes to close. So seated pose for many of us is really challenging. It's going to cause pressure in our lower backs. Our hip flexors are just really tight. And a lot of the reason for this is we spend way too much time seated. So chairs, couches, these all support us, which is fab. But it means that the hip flexors don't have to work. So they're not strong enough, but also they get really tight. They're not used to going back and they're not used to coming into this tight or this high of a flexion, okay? And a flexion is where the hips are shorter, so you're kind of closing that distance rather than straightening the legs. So just for a moment, scan the body. And just see if you can settle your mind on the most sort of obvious or strongest sensation that you're getting. It might be in the lower back, it might be in the hip, it might be somewhere completely different. And then I want you to just start to breathe into that part of the body. Now, obviously, we can't physically send our breath to the hip, if that's where you're feeling it, or the lower back. But you're focusing your exhale and that sort of release into that area of the body. So I just want you to take 5 breaths. And on each exhale, send the breath to the area of the body that feels the most discomfort right now. Maybe noticing if that sensation changes or goes to a different area of the body. And if that sensation has moved, I want you now to start to send the exhales to that area of the body. We're just going to do this for about the next 60 seconds. So maybe spending 5 breaths in one area, noticing if that sensation has shifted or moved. And then just shift your awareness to that other part of the body. Let the belly go. You don't need to be drawing the belly in. See if you can soften the shoulders away from the ears. Nice. The next thing we're going to do is a body scan to release tension, and you'll be surprised at how many areas of the body you're still tensing your muscles in. So with the eyes closed, just bring your awareness to the crown of your head, the top of your head. And we're going to almost imagine that there is a light slowly melting down the body. And as the light comes to reach different parts of the body, I want you to just soften those muscles and let everything go. So the light now moves down from the crown of the head and across the forehead. And see if you can just feel the forehead and then the eyebrows release, the space between the brows release, the eyeballs and the temples. The light moves down across the bridge of the nose into the cheeks, and just feel the cheeks starting to soften and droop. Across the lips, into the jaw, letting go any tension you're holding in the jaw, into the chin. That light traces its way along the front of the throat, the back of the neck. Feel the collarbones becoming heavy as the light traces its way across the tops of the shoulders. And just feel the backs of the shoulder blades let go. The rounded part of the shoulder let go, and the front of the chest let go. The light traces its way down the front of the arms, the biceps soften, the elbows soften. Across the front of the chest, into the sides of the ribs, the upper back, the side waist. Across the front of the abdomen, feel the abdomen let go, the belly softens even more. Across the forearms, the wrists, the thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, the palm of the hand and the back of the hand. The light makes its way into the hips, left and right hips soften. Across the glutes, letting the bum go. Across the fronts of the thighs, the backs of the thighs, into the knee joint, down the shins, and then into the sides of the feet, the tops of the feet, the bottoms of the feet, and the big toe, a fourth toe, third toe, second toe, pinky toe. And just feel the whole body really nice and heavy here. And then just start to flutter the eyes open, lifting the gaze. Take a nice big inhale, bring those arms up to the sky, and then slowly bring those arms down. Good. So we're going to move into our second pose, and we're going to use the blocks. So we're going to come into child's pose, which is often taught as a very restorative pose. But when you're new to yoga, when you're a beginner and you've got really tight hips, this can be quite an intense posture. So there's two places where we can use the block. One is going to be under our tush, under our bum, and the other is going to be under our head. So bring the big toes to touch at the back of your mat. And take the knees as wide as feels comfortable. So they might be as wide as the mat. They might not be that wide at all. Now, if right now your ankles are really screaming at you and your butt doesn't feel anywhere near the heels, I want you to put a block inside, okay? So not to the outside of the feet, but tucked inside, and then let your butt rest, okay? So that's gonna take some of the pressure out of the thighs and the hips. Then you're gonna start to walk yourself forwards. Bring the forearms down first. Notice how this feels. Hopefully that block's helping your tush. If you feel like this isn't as much pressure, you can take the block out and see how you get on. Eventually we want the bum to reach the heels, maybe. Don't worry if it doesn't. Now, if you're feeling right now like there is no way that your head is gonna reach the mat, take your block, you might even need two, underneath the forehead. So I'm actually gonna bring my block back under my butt because that felt really nice. And then I'm gonna let my forehead rest. Now, this is a pose, child's pose, that I can get into really comfortably. But actually using these blocks is really nice as well. I get that pressure on my forehead, and you can gently rock your forehead from side to side on that block. And it just massages out any of that tension. We tend to hold a lot of tension in our brows. And then I want you to really just completely let go of your belly. Whew. Let the belly be heavy. If it feels okay, you can always walk the arms further forwards. And then we're just going to stay here and breathe. Now, because the front body is kind of compressed here, I want you to breathe into your back body. So breathing into the back ribs, the back shoulders, feel the back body expand. And then take a nice big breath out of the mouth, letting it all go. We're just going to do 10 like this. Breathing in, back body expands. And then breathing out, sighing that breath out of the mouth. Nice. Keep going. If it's too much breathing out of the mouth, you can seal the lips and just breathe in and out of the nose. But stay focused on expanding through the back body, through the rib cage, the shoulders. You might notice that the hips are becoming heavier with every exhale. Maybe the shoulders are melting further away from the ears. 5 more breaths here. Last one. Good. Pressing into your hands. You're going to come out the way you came in, so slowly pushing yourself back up. Nice. Moving the block out from beneath you. And we're going to get ready for our next pose. So our next pose is going to be lizard pose. So take your blocks towards the top of your mat and bring yourself up into tabletop position. So knock the knees in. And then from here, what we're going to do is step forwards with our right foot. So just start to walk that foot forwards. It might not come all the way forward. So grab that foot, help it through. And then from here, what we're going to do is step the foot to the outside edge of the mat. Grab your blocks and you're going to take them on their highest setting, okay? So the highest setting. And then start to sink the hips forwards. Now, if your knee is overshooting your ankle like so, you want to walk that foot forwards until the ankle is slightly in front of the knee or directly below the knee. Now, using the blocks, we're going to start on highest setting, start to sink forwards. So your hips are in 2 different positions here. Back hip is in what's called extension, so you're lengthening out that hip joint, and front hip is in flexion. It's also in a slight external rotation, so it's slightly wider than normal hips distance. What I want you to do now is shine your heart forwards, and instead of driving the chest down, I want you to drive the hips down. And what you're doing with these blocks is you're keeping your heart up nice and high, and we're keeping that length in our spine. So we're just going to stay here. Breathing through it. Try to keep the whole flat of your foot down. You're going to have a tendency to roll that knee out. See if you can hug the knee in. Keep it nice and centered. And we'll just stay for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Push into the block, send the weight back, and start to bring that knee back. Good. You can keep the hands where they are. We're going to just go straight to the other side. So starting to move that left foot forwards. Again, if it only comes halfway, help that leg, okay? Sometimes, especially at the beginning of our practice, we just can't move that easily. And that's what the point of yoga is. So again, with that front knee, if the knee is overshooting the ankle, you want to just walk that foot forwards. This is going to protect your knee joint. Again, super important. Hands come onto those blocks. Drive the hips forwards. Now your right leg is in extension. That hip is lengthening, and your left leg is in that deep flexion. Take a moment to sort of feel if one side is tighter than the other. So reflecting back to that first side when we did it on the right. And does this feel easier, harder, much the same? Another thing that you want to be aware of is that your blocks aren't too far forwards or too far behind. Essentially, what makes us stronger or makes poses easier is bones stacked on bones. So you want your wrist to be directly under your shoulder so those bones are stacked and they're nice and strong. You might get stronger doing it like this, but you're going to fatigue really quickly. Good. Staying here for 10. Keep sinking those hips down for 9. Shine the heart forwards for 8. Breathe deeply for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. To come out of the pose again, I want you to push into the block, send the weight back. This is going to bring lightness into that left foot, bringing that foot back, dropping onto those knees. Right away, plop yourself onto one hip or the other, and you're going to shoot the legs forwards. So we're going to do 2 variations of Paschimottasana now. This is where the legs are extended and we're stretching the hamstrings. Now, when people are new, often the hamstrings are quite tight, and this is going to cause a rounding in your back. So if I ask you right now to straighten your legs, to flex the toes, this might make you do this. And that's because the hamstrings are really tight, and you also might be feeling it in the hip flexors. This is where we take a block and put it underneath our bum. And hopefully this will get you to sit up taller. If one block isn't enough, grab the other, sit on 2 blocks, or take your block onto a higher setting. Now, look at the toes. The toes might be running away from you, the pinky toe that is. So pull the pinky toe in, and then just bring your hands onto your thighs. Draw the shoulders back and down the body. Try not to jut the chin forwards. Keep the chin tucked. Essentially, your spine includes your neck, so you want your whole spine to be straight, including the neck. Take an inhale here, and then from the hip, just slowly start to come forwards. What we don't want to do is cast a shadow over our thighs with our shoulders by rounding in our upper back, which is what everybody does. Yep, I can come forwards and they just look like this. So start to straighten the spine. Keep those elbows back if you need to. Keep flexing the toes. And if you're doing this work right now, even on a block, even though I practice yoga all the time, I'm still feeling this lots in my hamstrings. So I'm keeping myself really, really straight. I'm barely coming forwards. I'm pulling my pinky toe in. I'm pushing my big toe forwards. And we'll stay for 10. Breathe. 9, 8. Watch that chin that it's not jutting forward. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Release the tension in the legs. Let the legs go floppy. If you want, you can come off your block. We're now going to totally fold forwards. So letting ourselves go. So this is a different version. This is a more passive variation, and we're targeting connective tissue. So just let everything go. Let the head be floppy. And again, we're just going to stay here for 10. 9. If you want, you can use the other block under the head. 8. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Don't start rising up yet. I want your head and your arms, your shoulders to be the last thing to move. Draw the belly in. Slowly start to stack the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae by vertebrae, using the core to lift you up. Nice. Okay. So one more pose, and you guys can spend as long as you want in these poses. I wouldn't say more than 5 minutes. It's kind of diminished returns after that point, but holding for a minute or 2 minutes might be really, really good for you. So the next pose is our squat pose. Most people really struggle at the beginning of their practice with squats, so I recommend stacking blocks. I wouldn't stack your blocks like so because they're going to be really wobbly. If you need 2 blocks, I would take one block on its side and the other block flat. So you're creating like a T, and this is going to create a bit of a sturdier base. You can always take 2 blocks as well beside each other. You want a sturdy base. The last thing you want to do is fall over, okay? So feet come wide and bring the hands forwards and just sit the butt down, okay? Make sure that you're not going to wobble, you're not going to fall. Get your tush nice and comfy, okay? And then from here, start to turn the toes out. So we want the toes and the knees kind of going in the same direction here. Bring the hands to heart center and then tuck your elbows to the insides of your knees. Good. Pressing here. Now, if you don't feel much of anything at all, maybe you'll drop it down. Just a touch. Yeah, that's a bit better for me. So now I feel it. Pushing nice and strong into those hands so that you're opening up the hips. Notice what you feel in the heels. If your heels are lifting, take the feet a little bit wider. With squat, we don't want to hate it right off the bat, okay? We want to start to build our strength in our squat. We want to start to build our stamina with our squat. It's deep, deep, deep hip flexion, okay? We don't sit this deep in a chair, as well as deep external rotation. So we're asking quite a bit from our body, from our hips, and what they're really not used to doing. So close the eyes, And we're just going to take 10 nice, slow, controlled breaths here. Inhaling, thinking about length. And as you exhale, just imagine those hips becoming a little bit wider. You might even push your elbows into those knees. This breath is the thing that's going to keep you controlled. Calm the nervous system. When you're new to yoga, your nervous system, your stretch reflexes are just going to fire like crazy. They're not used to doing what you're asking them to do. And so your body will naturally tighten up because it thinks that it's in danger. And deep breathing convinces the nervous system that you're okay, that you're going to be fine. And you will. You will, because you're using these props, you're using the blocks, and you're coming into these poses safely. Maybe one day you won't need the block under your tush. Maybe you'll always need it. That doesn't really matter. And just take 4 more breaths here. And if the eyes are closed, just gently flutter them open, bringing up the head, releasing the hands. And when you're ready, guys, either coming to sit on the mat, taking yourself into a really nice Shavasana, lying down on the back, or just carrying on with your day. I hope that helps. You can come back to these poses, maybe hold them for 2-3 minutes, and you'll start to really see the benefits of your practice, even with the lovely blocks. All right, guys, have an amazing day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.